So, for those of you that are too young to remember, about a decade ago, there was software called Adobe Flash, which allowed you to create animations, website advertisements, and even video games. The Adobe Flash Player was installed on billions of machines, and websites would dedicate their entire online real estate to the various entertainment products created in the software. Sites like Newgrounds would feature both games and animations created with Flash, while other sites, like Miniclip or Addicting Games, would only feature games. Oh, this was all for free. Not free like in the App Store, where you have to watch an ad every time you die, or purchase some fake currency to speed up the snail's pace progression, but actually free. All you needed was a PC and an internet connection. The games that were created in Flash ranged in quality, content, and genre. You would see a lot of low-effort, simple-click games early on, but eventually you had companies dedicated to making fully fledged MMORPGs, and even some commercial games. The actual game-making portion of Adobe Flash was simple and very easy to use. It allowed programmers, designers, and artists to collaborate easily, using the stage to draw and design level layouts, while the programmers would use the IDE to write code directly to the objects. The actual Adobe Flash software to make games and animations was not free. However, there were a few free alternatives that allowed you to create games without using Adobe Flash. However, it lacked the stage editor, requiring you to create art and levels elsewhere. So, a great tool with a lot of versatility, which even encouraged collaboration between the various disciplines of game development, and most of all, free games. So, what happened? Why did Flash go away? Well, mobile games happened. I mean, some specifically blame the death of Flash games on Apple, but I think even if Apple did allow Flash on the iPhone, we would still be in the same situation. Once mobile games became more prevalent, and free games in the App Store started to pick up steam, most gamers who once found themselves on Flash gaming websites stopped logging on. I mean, the amount of effort to turn on your computer, sit at a desk, load up a website, and then find the game is far more inconvenient than just pulling out your phone and tapping an icon. Plus, your phone has the benefit of being able to play anywhere. No longer were you tied to a desk, either at home, at school, or at work. Instead, you could sit on your toilet and play a few rounds of Flappy Bird, solve a few puzzles in that brick moving game, or do whatever it is that people do in Raid Shadow Legends while you wait in line at the grocery store. Even if Adobe Flash had been a choice to develop games on both Android and iOS, I doubt that Adobe could have held its own against GameMaker, Cocos, Unity, Unreal, Monogame, Godot, GDevelop, Love 2D. Well, you get my point. I mean, many of these engines and frameworks that I listed can't even hold their own against Unity and Unreal. In this situation, Adobe may have lasted a bit longer, but they still would have lost to the other more focused projects. Also, the technology used to make Flash games was a bit weird. First, it used its own language called ActionScript. I personally liked ActionScript 3 more than version 2, but that's neither here nor there. Originally, all the graphics were rendered using the CPU, using vectors. Eventually, they would release a GPU-driven library called Stage 3D, but that was far too late in the life cycle. Plus, I don't think there were even that many adopters. I had a very early build of my game Eden running on it using Adobe Air, but I personally don't know any other developer that has used it outside of a couple major studios. Even I eventually moved my game over to Unity after seeing the faltering of Adobe Flash. Flash would eventually go away mostly for good after Adobe killed the software, but it is seeing a bit of a renaissance through Ruffle, which is a recreation of the Adobe Flash Player built in Rust, allowing those games to be played in the modern browser. It's still currently in development, but it has steadily been making progress. Every year, Newgrounds holds a Flash game development contest, so new games are even still being created, but definitely not like it once was. Some of the old Flash game developers would go on to make commercial hits, such as Castle Crashers, Alien Hominid, Super Meat Boy, and Binding of Isaac. Other developers would move on to the mobile market and find varying degrees of success. However, I feel like the mobile market definitely lacks the freedom and the Wild West feeling of the Flash game era. Flash games weren't about monetization, but instead it was about experimenting in art, gameplay, and design. Some would take the latest and greatest new game and try to fit it into a web browser, while others just wanted to tell a funny or insane story that couldn't exist on any mainstream console. There were no rules and regulations. Games were pure labors of love. rather than economic investments. Sure, most lacked the polish of a AAA game, but it wasn't about the polish. It was about experiencing something unique that you couldn't get anywhere else. Sites like Newgrounds do still exist, but they're more or less shells of their former glory. Most gamers and developers have moved on. AAA games like Fortnite can now be played on your mobile phone, something that not even the best Flash games can compete with. It amazes me how far we've gotten with our technology, but I don't think we're better off for it, at least not creatively. That doesn't mean that I don't think that the Flash game spirit still doesn't live on. I believe the scrappy spirit of Flash games does certainly still exist, but it's mostly scattered around itch.io. It's definitely not as concentrated as it once was, but it's still there. You just have to go out and find it, between all the people trying to make the next big thing by trend chasing, or those charging $20 for their 2-month asset flip. Long gone are the days of Flash games, and a large community of developers making games as fun hobbies just to get beer money from ad revenue. Video games are now too commodified and lucrative to have that on the same scale that we once did. I doubt that we can ever go back. Either way, support your small indie devs who are doing something unique. Download Ruffle and play some Flash games. And most of all, keep working on the things that you're passionate about. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your time.